So in this video, I'm going to go over how to convert video files. And there's a couple of reasons you might want to do this. One is to decrease the size, and you usually do that by decreasing the quality, lowering the resolution, or compressing it. The other reason you may want to is if you have a standard that you have to follow. So like for instance, my school requires our videos to be made in MP4 for remote learning, like for during COVID. So if, for instance, if you make a video with your phone, it might not be in MP4, it might be in some other format, and you need to convert it. So to do that, we're going to use the program Handbrake. So go to Google, type in Handbrake download, and then click the first link, and it'll bring you to this page, and then you can download in whatever version you need. If you've got 64-bit, which is likely now in 2021, then download 64-bit, but there is a 32-bit available, I believe, and I think you can download, yeah, you can get old releases as well. If for whatever reason you're running like an older version of an operating system. They've got it for Linux, they've got it for Mac. So once you've gotten it, that over there, you can install it or run it from, if it's in a zip folder, you could just extract the zip folder and run it from there. And I've got these videos, they're just regular movies, so I'm going to show what it takes to convert one. I'm not going to go through the entire conversion process because I don't need to convert them, but then I'm also going to show how to batch convert. In other words, to convert a whole bunch of them all at once. And you might want to do this, for instance, if, say you've got a 1080p video collection, but you want to convert it down to 720p to save a whole bunch of space. A typical 1080p MP4 video would take, say, 2 gigabytes of space, whereas a 720p is closer to 1 gigabyte, maybe 800 megabytes of space. And so if you had a bunch of 1080p videos, which scale up, a bunch of 1080p videos which you want to convert down to 720p, you could do them all at once, sort of automatically. And 720p scales up to 1080p or even to 4K pretty well, since it's the same 16:9 aspect ratio. So anyways, to do just one, open up the program, grab the file, drag and drop it, and it will pull it in. And then you've got a whole bunch of options, and it kind of looks confusing. But I'm just going to go through the simple way of doing it. Choose a preset that you want, and you can go to Devices and choose based on the device that you intend to use it on, that you intend to play it on. So like if you know that you're going to play it through a PlayStation, you might want 1080p 30. If you know it's going to be on an Amazon Fire and it's 4K, you can choose that. You can choose whichever one you want. However, I would say don't convert up to a larger resolution, because it will go up in size, in file size, but it won't go up in quality. Converting down you can do, and the quality will remain pretty good. You'll lose some because you're sort of compressing it, squeezing it down further. But when you go up, what you end up doing is taking 1 pixel, and like if you're going from 1080p to 4K, you're converting 1 pixel into 4. And so the computer can do that. I mean, it tries to fill in those gaps, but it doesn't end up looking great. So if you need to go down, you can do that. I wouldn't recommend going up. But at any rate, there are some others. So Matroska is MKV, and you'll see H.265, H.264, those are different codecs. So H.265 is a newer codec, and high efficiency, I think it's called HEVC, high efficiency video codec. H.264 is kind of the standard, but not usually MKV, though you see a lot of them. MP4 is probably more typical. And then VP9, I believe, is a new like web video, not new, but new-ish web video format. There's also, so this production is for if you're doing video production. Web is good for, obviously, if you are converting it to something that you want to upload onto YouTube, you might use this. But typically I just go to General, and then I choose the resolution and frame rate that I want. So 1080p 30, you can go to 720p 30. You see with these, you don't have 60 frames per second. But again, if you're starting with something that's 60 frames per second, you can go down to 30. But I wouldn't recommend going up because it's going to fill in those extra frames with just repeats. And in effect, you'll get the same looking video but with a larger file size. So there's no sense in doing that. There are some other common formats. Let me see if any of these are it. Let's see. You can also check by right-clicking and doing properties and clicking details. Yeah, it's really common to see 23.98 when you see 1080p or 720p. 23.98 is the number of frames per second that fits NTSC video, which is used in North America and I think maybe in Japan. I'm not sure. But it's basically the old TV standard. There's a reason why it's 23.98, and I can't give you the history, but you can look it up online. 23.98 looks fine, 30 frames per second looks fine. You might want to go to 60 for something, or keep it at 60 if it's something that's fast-paced, sports and that type of thing. But at any rate, 23.98 will go to 30 without a problem. So let's say I want to go to 720p 30. All right. And basically at this point, all I've got to do, there's a bunch of other things you can choose to do. So you can play with the dimensions. There are different filters that you can do, like interlacing and de-interlacing and so on. You can make it black and white by choosing grayscale. You can change the video codec if you want. 10-bit is 10-bit color, by the way. And again, if it's already 10-bit, then you would probably want to keep it at 10-bit and not drop it back down to 8. But if it's 8-bit, which is the standard, or the, well, sort of the standard now, although 10-bit is getting more popular, if it's 8, you don't want to go up to 10 because it's not going to add anything additional, and again, it's going to make the file size larger. But at any rate, there are some different possible codecs. You can change the quality, but you see up here it gets to what they're calling placebo quality. If you drop the quality down lower, it'll make a smaller file size by compressing it more, but then it won't look as good. I usually keep that right where it is. You can change the frames per second. You can make it same as the source. You can make it 23.98. You can change it to 60. You can do whatever you want to with that. The audio will show whatever the audio codec is as standard. And then with subtitles, you can add subtitles here to the video file. Now I think that only works with MP4 and MKV, but you can burn the subtitles into the video so that with the one video file you can choose different subtitles, and it will be included in with the file. And then you can add chapters. These were just all made in a single chapter. I haven't played around with that much, but basically choose the preset that you want and then browse to desktop. Which video did I pick? Add Astro? Yeah, add Astro. Give it a file name, click save, and then you would click start encode. Now I'm not going to do that at the moment because I'm going to show you the other thing that you can do here where you add a whole batch. But if I click start encode, you would see it telling you down here what it's doing. It would encode it, it would leave the file here on the desktop with the new name, and that's it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do add to queue. So now I have one thing in the queue, and you can open it. Okay, there's the one thing, add Astra. Now let me add in these other three. So here's another one. It's set for 720p. Now this is 28 days later. If we look, it is 1080p right now, but I've got it set to 720p. And you see it saves it as the same video -1. So I'm going to change this to space 720p and do add to queue. So you see, now on the queue it's showing you the source, the destination name, source, destination name. Let me add in another one. It's keeping that at 720p, even though I suspect this is 1080. Let me see. Yep, this is 1080p as well, at 23.98 frames per second. It's going to change it to 720p 30. 720p, add to queue. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4. And now this last one, 720p. Add to queue. Okay, now it's ready and I can just hit Start Queue. And you see now it's converting these one at a time, and it's going to just put the files right here where I told it to. Now I'm not going to go through all of this, I'll cancel it, but this gives you an idea of, you can see how long it takes, 32 minutes per movie. And there's 4 movies, so it's going to take probably somewhere around an hour and a half to 2 hours. This is an old computer, that's why it takes a while, but what you would end up with is 4 video files where instead of being, let's see the size, instead of being 2 to 3 gigabytes each, they're probably going to be between 1 and 1.5 each. They're going to be about half the file size because you've dropped down to 720p. And that's all there is to it. You can do this with lots of different file types. These were MP4s, but you can convert MKV to MP4, you can convert AVI into whatever. I've used this to convert Apple videos, QuickTime videos into MP4. I think actually I had to do that for videos that were going into a PowerPoint, because PowerPoint would not allow me to use the Apple format, and so I converted it with this, and then I could put this in there. So that's all there is to it. It's a simple program. It's got a lot of stuff and a lot of options, but really the bulk of what you're going to do is just convert between different sizes and different formats, and you can do that with the presets. And then again, you know, if I wanted to, I could choose to change this to a different codec. I could choose to change it so that instead of it being saved as, you know, MP4, it's being saved as MKV. Could add subtitles and so on. And you can choose to convert one to MP4, another one to MKV, one of them with subtitles, one of them without, one with different audio, one with the same audio, and so on. And you can add those all to the queue so that you can just click go and then walk away. Now the one thing I'll say is I think this will continue to run and will not allow the computer to go to sleep. But just to be safe, you might want to come into Settings, System, Power, and then change your screen and sleep settings. I say change screen, even though the screen turning off shouldn't matter. You might want to change it anyways because it has to do with graphics, and sometimes that can insert a glitch into the video that's being converted at that moment. But I don't know. This is actually probably using the CPU on my computer to encode, so it'd probably be fine. Some computers will use the GPU if they have a better GPU than mine. But you would certainly want to change the sleep time from 45 minutes to something probably more like 2.5 hours, because this is going to take a while to run. You might even want to change it to like 4 hours just to be safe. So that's the only other thing I would say. That's about it. Hopefully this helps somebody. Handbrake is free. It's a great little tool, and I find myself using it at least 2 or 3 times every week to do something. Last time it was converting a video to 720p, because that way I could save it to Google Drive more easily and send it to my students more easily than with 1080p. At 1080p the video was 2.5 gigabytes, and at 720p it was around like 1.2 gigabytes. That's a lot easier for a student to download. It downloads much more quickly, it takes up less space, and students don't need something that's super high quality, so it worked out in that case. Alright, that's about it. Hope this helps somebody. Enjoy.